Hello everybody and welcome back to KDH art class. Alright, so I've been rummaging around the house and I'm trying to find objects that you may not, but you may have it around your house. And I keep looking at these little sleeves. You put them on breakable bottles, olive oil and stuff like that. And it keeps the bottle from banging into other bottles and breaking on the way home from the store. So they're really neat, and I just kept trying to think, what can I make? What can I make? And I decided to go with textiles and create a little bag or a pouch. And I got a little bit fancy. Not only did I close off the bottom to turn it into a pouch that opens up on the other end, but then I started to add some more weaving techniques to it. And in fact, on this side, I made it like extra fuzzy. And I was thinking about going ahead and add some of this fuzzy shag look to it all the way down, but I thought it was pretty neat. And it works for larger items. And to top it off, I have this nice little ribbon that when you pull it, it cinches closed. It's called a drawstring. So draw means it brings it all together, not just drawing as in a beautiful picture that we will do. Not today, but in other days. But just a neat little idea. So again, you can have it nice and shaggy looking, not as much, or you don't even need any of this fancy stuff at all. We're just going to be using a basic latch hook kind of technique to hold it together and then maybe decorate along the top. But in order to do that, we need to know how long to make these. So here are some little tricks. For those that have never seen a ruler before, okay, it's this stick and it has numbers on it and it has a bunch of lines. And it's hard to make sense of what those lines are. So let me just give it to you real quick. Okay. The number is next to the longest line. See these yellow lines? I highlighted them yellow so you can see they're the longest lines, and the number is next to it. Please, please, please do not be like my students that will line up the number with the short, teeny, tiny little lines underneath it and think that's where the 1 inch is. No, no, no. I know. They're so wrong at putting it to the side. They should be putting it on the end, but they don't. So we know the longest line is the 1 inch. The longest line with the 2 next to it is the 2 inch. The longest line is the 3, the 4, the 5. Right? So that's how you measure your inches. Okay. Then there's a line in between the 1 and the 2 that's long, but not as long as the ones I did in yellow. I did these in blue, and those are the 1/2 inch. Okay, so this is 1, 1.5, 2, 2.5, 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5. Okay, this little guy, he doesn't get a number in front of it. He's just half, because saying 0.5 doesn't make sense. And in between the 1/2 and the inch is another long line, not as long as the 1/2, and those are the quarters. There's 4 quarters in every inch. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I know I actually pointed to the 1/2 as part of the quarters and the 1 inch as part of the quarters. That's getting a little advanced for my older kids. That's great if you're catching on to it. But for this project, let's just focus on the inches. Those are the lines that are the longest, with the number next to it. Again, next to it, not on the end, but it is where the inch marks are. Okay, so if you're doing this project and you have the glass bottle sleeve, great. If you don't, you could find some other objects. You could do just basic weaving. A lot of our potato and citrus bags have these nice little holes in it. And it'll be a little bit more challenging because the holes are small. You probably need the help of a needle or a crochet hook. But you can do it. I would recommend that you just cut out a nice rectangle, fold it in half, and you would basically have this starting out. The difference is you would probably have 3 sides with the fringe on it instead of the one side that we have here. Or you would probably need 2 sides, I should correct myself. Where you folded it, for example, so I don't confuse you, if you cut out a rectangle piece, let's just say it's like this, and you fold it, you have a hole on this side, and a hole on this side, and a hole on that side. You have it on 3 sides. So you have choices to make. If you're going to make it a tube or a cylinder, this only has the hole at the bottom and the hole at the top. There are no holes on the side. So you would have to maybe do the fringe along the side as well as the bottom, or you could have just the opening on top and you do the fringe on the 2 sides. Again, it's entirely up to you, but that was just an option. Again, if you take these type of bags and you cut out a rectangle piece, this is a half a page of construction paper as kind of a measurement that you can use. Trace, cut it out. You might even want to put glue on the edges to keep it from falling apart. So you have choices. All right, now this little half page is my little helper. So like I said, this is a tube. It would fit over a glass container. And the idea is it acts as a little softening agent, so if it bangs into something else, this will hopefully keep the glass from breaking because it's kind of soft and bouncy and rubbery, even though it's skinny. All right, so it's a tube. We don't want a tube. We want to close off one end to make a pouch. All right. So how are we going to do this? Well, we're going to need a bunch of strings to do it with. Now these strings are, let's find out. How long are they? Well, if we take our ruler and you put it on the one end, see where they start together. And you go to the other, it should be 5 inches. Parents, be careful. Sometimes the kids are in a hurry and they won't line it up at the beginning. You see the string is sticking out and the 5 is over here. That's now giving them the wrong length. Or they're starting here and they would cut it too short because the ruler is sticking out. So when to measure something, make sure both are starting equal. It's like doing a race. Oh goodness, there's my puppy dogs, all excited. All right, good. They went to get my husband. Peace and quiet. All right, so you make sure they start here, and we want our strings to be 5 inches. As an elementary art teacher that has about 100 kids in each grade level, and I teach 6 different grade levels, I'm not going to measure each one. I'm going to find an easy way of measuring and cutting. So I'm going to find a piece of cardboard that's about 5 inches. It's actually 5 1/4, so it goes past the 5. It's just a little bit longer. If it's a little bit longer, that's fine. Right? Even if it's a little bit shorter, that's fine. As you can tell, I have a little bit extra room. I like it this length because I'm old and arthritic. That means my joints are getting stiff and they don't like to behave. And my fingers are kind of fat. Cute. I love my fingers. But they're a little bit fat and makes it hard to work with smaller strings. So you can use pretty much anything around that length. And you take some yarn, string, even some ribbon. I would recommend skinny ribbon, not this thick ribbon. This thick ribbon was more for the drawstring at the top that you can pull on and it'll squish everything up. Okay. And wrap it around your piece of cardboard. Goodness, I have these little strings everywhere. All right, so I'm going to start at the beginning and I'm going to wrap it around however many I want. I'm just going to stop there because you get the idea. Okay. And then I'm going to cut them all on this end and on the other end. And now my strings are 5 inches. Again, this was 5 1/4, so they're 5 1/4. And just a fingernail more than 5 inches. All right, now that you have your strings, we know they're cut. They're at a length that we can work with. They're not too short. You really can't make them too long. I mean, you can have fun with this stuff. Okay, now we're ready to start our fringe. This is an easy project if you have the openings. If you do not have these big openings, you're going to need something to help you. For example, you could use a tapestry needle. You can even use a crochet hook. Okay. A tapestry needle is those big blunt needles. They're great for kids first learning how to sew. This tapestry needle is the size 14. Heads up parents, the bigger the number, the smaller the needle. So if it says size 16 or 18, it gets skinnier and sharper. So make sure that you go with a smaller number for the tapestry needles to get the bigger, fatter needle that won't poke as much. It's blunt. Blunt means it's not as pointy and sharp. Otherwise, I do recommend something that's a little bit bigger on the hook to go around 2 pieces of yarn of a crochet needle. This one is the 2.25 millimeter, so I recommend something a little bit bigger. All right. We can get all of this out of the way. There's our example. We're done with the scissors. I like to clean as I go so it's not so cluttered on the screen. And we need to close up that opening. I'm going to start with my first string. And honestly, parents, your kids are only going to need about 10 of these at a time, maybe 20. We're going to connect both sides together. Now here's the thing. Make sure that where you put the string that there's no opening. This is broken at the bottom here, which means my pencil is able to just fall through. I would want to put it in a hole where the pencil cannot fall through, it catches. All right. And that's part of the reason why I made my strings a little bit longer, so they can cover up these little ends that are broken at the ends. All right, so fold your 5-inch string in half. Okay. Grab it by the little circle end. There's my little circle. The circle needs to go through both the top and the bottom holes, and then bring up the bottom of your string so it's on the other side of your little plastic hole opening there. Put both strings through the circle. See how they're both going through that circle there, and give it a nice tug. Not so much that you break things, but enough so it closes. Now I recommend, or I like to do, 2 of these for each one of these rhombus diamond shapes. So that's up to you. I'm going to start with the 1, and you can change up the colors if you'd like. Fold it in half. Get your little loop. I'm going to scoot over to the next diamond rhombus form shape. All right. Pull up the back end and put them both through the loop. Just like a basketball going into a basketball hoop, and give it a little tug and let it hang down. You notice I'm starting in the middle. I just find that's a little bit easier for me, and then I work my way out to the sides. Let me go ahead and get another one. Fold it in half. You have the circle. The circle goes through the bottom and the top of your mesh. And then bring up the 2 other ends so it catches it. Both of them go through the loop and give it a little tug. And it's starting to catch. And then now, when I try and open it up, you can see that it's catching it and it won't open. So we need to finish closing off these other ends so that we have our fringe. So we'll go a little bit faster. Fold in half, get your circle. The circle goes through both of the rhombus. The other end comes up through your circle. Give it a pull. Grab another one, fold it in half, get your circle, go through both ends, or both rhombus. That one's in the way. Bring it up and through the loop. There we go. And give it a tug. grab another one. Fold it in half. Create your little circle. Have your circle go through both of those. Is that one connected? All right. Let's just say it's not. So I'm going to go through this one. And open up that little circle. Put both ends through. They don't want to behave. Both ends through. Loop, and give it a little tug. Ooh, that's a big opening. It doesn't really want to close. There we go. And as you can see, they're a little staggered here, but that's okay. I'm going to add extra little strings here and there to kind of fill in, and you'll never notice the difference. I had the same issues over here. Some of them were higher, some of them were lower. Okay. And by the time I added 2 strings to each, it just kind of worked out. So when I put my other one through the same rhombus as that beautiful bluish teal, right? This is going on the other side of the diamond. It's going to help kind of join them together. I still need to get the other side of this diamond, and they just start filling in. All right, so just a couple more, and then we'll move on. Fold through the hole, both strings, and they go, and give it a little tug, just so I have it all the way across on both sides, and through the hole, through the circle. Like I said, there is no right or wrong way of doing this. At the elementary level, guys, you're just learning how to do it. When you first started to learn how to read, you didn't even recognize the letters of the alphabet. You had to learn those and practice those. And then the more that you read, the better you got. Same thing in art. Same thing in sports. You can't walk up to a football or a basketball coach and say, hey, I want to go to the NBA. I want to be in the NFL. In fact, I want to just walk in there and go to the Super Bowl because that's what I want. The coach would laugh at you. He'd be like, no, you need to know the plays. You need to know what I mean when I call the plays. You need to get to know the other players on the team to make sure that you guys cover each other's weaknesses. You understand what they're going to do, so you know where everyone is at. And you have to practice throwing and catching. Your muscles, when you're born, your muscles are not ready to be in the Super Bowl or at the national cheerleading competition or the championship national volleyball level. Gymnastics. You have to practice and practice a lot. So since this, for most of you, is going to be the first time, it's not going to be perfect. What we're doing is we're looking at it and we are appreciating the work put into it. We're taking a step back and going, how could I change this? How could I make it better? What more could I do to it? And what you're really going to find is when you look at your own artwork, you are your worst critic. That means you're the one that's going to be the least happy with it. And you won't understand it when all these other friends start going like, oh, that's great. That turned out wonderful. All right, so let's say I've added my second one to all of these, which I have not. I'm ready to come up here. All right, so I took a half a page of construction paper, rolled it up. I recommend you make it a little bit smaller. Okay. And we put it in here. This is going to help us not connect both sides at this end. Remember, in order for it to be like a purse or a pouch, okay, you need to have an opening, and you need for it to not open down here. All right. So if we're going to add our drawstring top to it, all right, if you pick a ribbon like I did that's too big, you're going to have to fold it in half. Hopefully my little grid will keep showing. Start somewhere. I like to start on the sides, but you can start in the front. Okay. And you're going to do an in and out pattern. What does that mean? It means I'm going to go in this one and out the next one. Okay. Then the next one, I'm going to go in and out the next one. Wait, in, out, like a snake going through the grass. Some of my students, that helps them visualize, and they do better. The next one, in, next one, out. Or another way of looking at it is you're going to go over this little piece of plastic and then under the next little piece of plastic. Now, before I get too far along, I'm going to go ahead and give it a little tug. And I'm going to keep going with the in and out, or under, over. Uh-oh. These tops are broken, so I'm going to drop it down and go in that one, and reach in there and pull out the next one. Sorry. Go in and out. I would show you with skinnier ribbon, but I don't have any skinny ribbon. It's all in my classroom that I'm not allowed to go and get, because we are staying at home. And I didn't want to cut my ribbon in half. Silly me. So I'm stuck having to fold my ribbon and make it harder for myself. Okay. And in and out, and pull it. All the way. Almost there. Keep it folded. In and out. Couple more, and then I'm done with my little drawstring. Yeah. Okay, so here I have a choice. Since they're almost the same length, I can keep going with this one and just work this around. Or, since it's giving me a hard time here, or I can take this other side and start weaving it back this way to meet this one, or a little of both. And I think I'm just going to keep going. It's just a few more, and then I can, as my grandparents would say, futz with it a little bit. And kind of play around with it and fidget it. And I taught my kids the word zhuzh. They're like, what's zhuzh? And I said, that's where you zhuzh it. You just do a little bit of something to it. Give it a little zhuzh. We talk about it when we do clay. We do the score, the slip, and when you put the pieces together, don't forget to give them a little zhuzh until the pieces stick together. It's funny, when you make up names, they seem to remember so much better. All right, folks, we have now made our little drawstring. And when you tighten it up, it will pull it all together at the top, or loosen it and it'll open right up. The rest is up to you. You could continue with this weaving and do strings going across. You're going to need longer strings than what you had before. These, I believe, yep, they're about twice as long, so they're about 10 inches. All right. This would be 9, 10, yep, so they're about 10 inches. I would need my paper in the middle. It loves to get caught on this stuff. And then, just like I did the drawstring, you can go under this one, over that one, under this one, over that one, under, over. If the kids start getting these little frayed little knots, then you could tie a knot in it, or you could put a little piece of tape around it so it doesn't come undone, much like the ends of our shoelaces. If I choose to do this, I would probably end up cutting it off because I don't want this hard plastic as part of my fringe. Okay. But it does make it easier to go under and over. Let's see, I'm about halfway. There we go. Yep, that is halfway. Then I can do one on the other side, and then I can tie them. Let's say I did over under on that side, and I finished up. Then I can just give them a little tie together, crisscross knots, and create fringe on the two sides going down. In this one, I took some a long piece of yarn, and I kept going around and around like a giant circle, around and around and around and around. It took some time. It took some time. And then when I got to the very top, I went ahead and did a few more of these up here at the top, just to make it a little bit more interesting. You could even add some beads. Get this out of the way. All that hard work. So I'm going to start by going through the bead. And then I pick my little spot that I'm going to go through. Make sure this goes over the bead and through the little circle, just so that the beads get caught on it. And you can add little beads to it if you would like. Well, I hope you have fun making your little pouch, whether or not you want it to be a drawstring. Maybe you just want to take some duct tape or some washi tape along the top and just give it a cute little top. That's entirely up to you. Like I said, I doubled up the fringe down here to make it extra thick, and I added a little fringe at the top just to make it more interesting. You are free to create however you'd like. You could add just little bitty bits of fringe here and there. Let your imagination go wild and have fun. Oh my goodness, art is just, for me, so relaxing and so fun. I could just be doing it all day long. Oh wait, I do. All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed KDH art class. Please go online and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to do some other lessons that I have done with found objects around the house. Have a great day and stay safe. Bye.